Okay, so this is NOW for today, 9 September 2020, Wednesday, NGS online workshop. You can see the entire syllabus at this link bit.ly slash NGS underscore analysis, all in small letters. And you can register online with your name, email, and mobile number at bit.ly slash capital R register NGS in caps. You can subscribe, save, share, like, bell icon on our YouTube channel. Okay, bit.ly slash YouTube by in small caps. And you can join the NGS analysis WhatsApp group in your own interest, bit.ly slash NGSWAPP. You can contact myself, the NGS instructor, at this number, and also connect on LinkedIn profile. Okay, so anyway, let's proceed. So VARSEC, yes, we'll proceed with conceptual parts. Yes, so first paragraph, genomic variation. All of you can see this. Yes, what is a variant? Yes, anybody, what is a variant? Quickly. Yes, what is a variant? Please read.
When it comes to defining genomic variations, the nomenclature and definitions show a surprising level in precision. We all know that variation is supposed to mean, of course, it should be a difference from what we expect to see. The problem is we almost never know what our expectations should be at any given moment. We only have imperfect information that changes in time. As our understanding of genomes evolve, concepts such as reference genome become harder to apply correctly. What should be considered a reference genome? After all, the reference genome changes to a bit, usually in a more systematic way. Come to think of it, just how different are different reference genomes from one another can be visualized at will last year's variants still look like variations this year? These are questions that currently do not have satisfactory answers.
So primarily when immediately as your turn is over, you can mute yourself. Okay, so primarily if we see the concept of reference genome is how a reference genome is chosen. Mostly it's on the basis of two criteria. So if you want to see how a reference genome is chosen, so it's based on two criteria. So 1 minute, let me open this also. Okay, I'll just show a new slide. So reference genome criteria is so one is number one. This is the phenotypic resemblance. And number two is predefined sequence. Okay. So what are the two criteria for choosing a reference genome from a reference database?
Resemblance and predefined sequence.
Yes. So phenotypic resemblance means that you know what is a phenotype, a function, right? So basically we don't choose a reference genome based on genotype, but mostly based on phenotype. But what we are essentially doing while doing SNP calling is genotyping, right? So in the second thing, a predefined sequence, what it means is so phenotypic resemblance, similar function of sample genome with respect to reference This predefined sequence, how this is defined is this. So this can be defined as follows, like one minute, adjusting the screen. This predefined sequence can be thought of as like this: conserved DNA motifs in the aspect of comparative genomics. So generally, if you have the same species, if you sequence, so sequencing the first sample of any given species is called to be sequencing, and if we further sequence further samples of the same species, that's called what? Resequencing, right? Simple. So once we sequence the first sample of a given species, it's called sequencing. Once we sequence further samples, it's called resequencing. So for a given species, almost all of the genomes will be very similar, right? Yes, for a given species, if you sequence and resequence, most of the genome is going to be same, right?
Yes.
Yes. So based on that, we define the predefined sequence. And phenotypic resemblance means, for example, previously there was not any reference genome, for example, let's say for tomato. So then we are going to choose the reference genome for onion, okay, or onion. So in this way, based on phenotypic resemblance and predefined sequence, we choose the reference genomes. So the process of discovering new species itself is an ongoing activity. So given even the latest technology we have, we need 500 more years to sequence potentially all the genomes, all the species on Earth. So in this way, our predefined sequence may change over time, or even our phenotypic resemblance to new species discovered may change over time. And at the same time, if we are going to deplete endangered species, we are going to lose some information, okay? Unless it's going to be like fossil based information or ancestral genome. Okay, so up to here, how do we classify variants? Yes, anybody can read.
How do we classify variants? Genomic variation are typically categorized into different classes and are often denoted with a shortened acronym. SNP, a single nucleotide polymorphism, a single base change.
So it's called SNP, right? It's pronounced SNP. Yeah. Okay.
Then indel, an insertion or deletion, a single base added or removed. SNV, a single nucleotide variant, a SNP or an indel, the change in single base. MNP, a multinucleotide polymorphism, several consecutive SNPs in the block. MNV, a multinucleotide variant, multiple SNPs and indel as a block. Short variation MNV are typically less than 50 base pair in length. Large scale variation that are larger than 50 base pairs. Then structural variation on the kilobase scale that involve one or more chromosomes.
Yes, so we can see that these are various classifications in a systematic way of from SNP to structural variants, depending on the nature of variation, or also substitution or addition or deletion, and then the length of the variation, the length of the substitution or addition or deletion. So radically different techniques need to be used to study problems in each class. Individual reads can capture small size changes. Large scale variants are typically detected from the relative positioning of reads about the read pairs, as demonstrated in the visualizing genomic variation, which we'll see again. So for structural variations, entirely new techniques, for example, nano-channel arrays and bio-nanogenomics may be needed to detect the large or greater than 1 kilobase pair to megabase pair variations. And as a rule, SNPs are the most reliably detectable from data. In contrast, very short multinucleotide variants that include insertions and deletions are the most difficult to resolve correctly. As you shall see in one of the next chapters, for example, the deletion followed by another variation can often be better aligned in alternate positions and that can fool variant callers. So we will see how. For example, there is also something like reverse complementing and also a lot of other types of variations which we'll see different types of genomic variation aspect. So what are SNPs? What is a SNP basically? SNPs, singular nucleotide polymorphisms, are a particular case of small scale variations. Yes, what is the definition of SNP? Yes, please read the highlighted 4 lines. Yes, the definition of SNP. Yes, these 4 lines, please. Yeah.
A simple nucleotide polymorphism, also known as simple nucleotide polymorphism. SNP, pronounced SNP, is a DNA sequence variation occurring commonly within a population. Example 1% in which single nucleotide A, T, G or A, T, C or G of a shared sequence differs between members of biological species or pair chromosome of same individual.
Yes. So that day, if you remember the E. coli chapter, we remember that if we go to the E. coli, right, the E. coli variant calling which we did, if we carefully see that again, so in this SNP, coli, yes, before that we will see the manual for that. So here, yes, this manual, right? So we counted how many variants were there using this particular command. Yes. So number of variants is very simple to count using a combination of grep and WC qualifier L. Yes. Yes. So what is this exercise? Yes. What are we doing here? What is the exercise title?
Use the grep and WC command. You have learned to assess how many variants are in the VCF file.
Yes, so grep is a global regular expression pattern and WC is word count. So why are we doing grep qualifier hash? So hash is the number of hash lines is the header lines in the variant call format file. So grep qualifier qualifier B is called ignore case. So ignore the lines starting with hash. So once we ignore the lines starting with hash, we are automatically ignoring the header lines. So once we are ignoring the header lines, we have an actual number of lines which are non-header lines, that is one variant per line. And when we count the lines, WC qualifier L is for line count. For example, WC qualifier C is for character count and WC qualifier W is for word count. So we are ignoring the header lines and then counting the remaining lines. So how many variants? What is the output?
766.
766, right? So here in the E. coli, yes, so yes, so if you go to the data in the genome, So if you do circuit stat equali.fa is what is the number of bases? So 4.6 MB, right? So if we do, for example, 766 variants, right? So 766 variants. That is going to be this number, 7660 divided by this number, divided by this number. So 1 minute, this number is control V, right? Okay, what is this number? It's 461652, 4641652, 4641652. Okay, so 4641652. Yes, so this is about 0.02%, right? Why are we multiplying by 100? We are multiplying by 100 because we want to find out the percentage, right? Yes. Definition of percentage is simple, right? The number into 100 divided by the total number, right? Yes. Yes, this is the number of variants. This number of variants is nothing but number of genomic positions where the variation is occurring, and length of the sequence is number of total genomic positions. Yes.
Yes.
So this is going to be 0.02%. So as we saw here, so example 1%, commonly within a population, example 1%. So this is in the case of all the genomes of a particular species, we can say, of a population. Okay, and it's a SNP term used consistently. Yes, so there are 6 participants. Any of you can read. It's not that always the same participant should read. Yes, anybody, all of you have to get a chance. So we'll gradually see conceptually, and then we'll go to command line. So it's a SNP term used consistently. Yes, please go on. Yes, quickly, please go on. Yeah.
So, not really. The previously I have mentioned how gene was the most misused word in biology. Well, SNP is a close second. In our observation, most bioinformatician and the most reference and the training material will often use the word SNP to refer SNVs or even MNVs, sometimes to all short variants. For a start, SNPs, SNP is easy to pronounce. It just roll your tongue. Then the 1% limitation is, of course, arbitrary. As a matter of fact, the first cutoff of SNPs was 5%, a limit that was only later reduced to 1%. Another problem with the definition of the SNPs is that the scientists are unable to randomly sample population, and with that they introduce so-called the selection bias. It could easily happen that the frequency of a variation and the initially appears so over 1%, then later turns out to be less than that value. In our opinion, the 1% cutoff is often used to imply that this variant was observed before. We believe that even the scientific language is dynamic, and we should accept the reality that most scientists use the word SNP to prefer the polymorphism where the frequency in population is not known. In this book, we will do the same. Also, we need to remember that others called SNPs may often include not just the polymorphism but also single nucleotide insertion and deletions.
Yes, so we will see a tool, just like we use a tool to simulate variation, DWG sim whole genome simulator. We will also see a tool called MS bar to simulate mutations in a particular sequence, like its reference genome. So tools like simulation tools will be useful for us, where we'll get artificial SNPs and artificial reads. On that basis, we can manipulate a lot of parameters and then see how the SNP will occur. So basically, in our case, in the E. coli case itself, this so appears so later turns a bit less than that value. So we saw that in our case, in the E. coli case, 766 was 0.02%, right? That's again very much less than 1%. Is about 0.02%. If you scale it to 1, it's like 0.02 into 100, that is 2 into 100, that's 2 by 100, so that's like again just 2% or 1%. Yes, okay. So do SNPs cause disease? The basic thing is, as we discussed regarding the base 2 trimer, in a close way, the reference genome assembly and SNPs are interrelated. So how the reference genome is constructed itself is important. So for example, we all know the Human Genome Project. In the Human Genome Project, actually, as far as we know, when it was initially implemented from 1990 to 2005 and was finished in advance in 2000, not a single Asian genome was covered. So there's a bias. This is a selection bias, right? So in the Human Genome Project initiated by NCBI or National Institute of Health, no Asian genome was there. Yes. So specifically, if you want to be specific, no Indian genome was there, though Indian genome has high diversity. And in the Genome India project also, there's again, for example, the selection bias. In the Genome India project, it is estimated or planned that 20,000 Indian individual genomes have to be sequenced, but 20,000 is a very low selection bias compared to like 1.3 billion, which is Indian population. Yes. Okay, so SNPs cause disease. This is yes, only this paragraph, right? Okay. Yes, do SNPs cause disease? Yes, anybody? Yes, please read. Do SNPs cause disease? Do single nucleotide polymorphisms cause disease? Yes, please go ahead.
SNPs are, in a sense, the holy grail of genomics. Their popularity perhaps is a manifestation of our hopes and wishful thinking. After all, wouldn't it be great if every disease or human condition could be distilled down to a few changes and mutations in the genome? We would just need to find that one SNP, and with that we solve the problem, collect our reward, and move on to the next problem. And in fact, sometimes, rarely though, things do work out this way. Some individual mutations do indeed cause diseases. The UMIM database, Online Mendelian Inheritance in Man, is an online catalog of human genes and genetic disorders. Collect this data. Visit the chapter called Online Mendelian Inheritance in Man for details on what is currently known about inheritance diseases and how we can interpret the data that describes the inheritance.
So we will possibly devote a session to OMIM later. So OMIM is for Online Mendelian Inheritance in Man, and OMIA, there's also OMIA, Online Mendelian Inheritance in Animals. Yes, basically this aspect, whether SNPs cause disease, these types of studies are called GWAS, genome-wide association studies. So in GWAS, what do we basically aim to do is not only find out the significance of SNPs at a particular position, but also the interlinking of several SNPs at several genomic positions. Yes. So in the case of, for example, plant genomes, we do studies like LD disequilibrium or linkage disequilibrium, where also we don't study just the effect of one SNP at one particular genomic position, but the effect of interlinking of several SNPs at several genomic positions. So for example, the plots we generate in the case in such cases are called Manhattan plots. Okay, so this is just to tell you. And also, in which particular genomic position do you think that if there's a SNP, it will be more disease causing? Yes.
A protein coding region.
Yes, can you repeat?
Protein coding regions. Like in exonic region, we would have, like if we have SNPs in exon region, then it would cause diseases.
Yeah.
Like proteins are the functional form of any cell, so if it is getting distorted because of any mutation, then it would cause disease.
Yeah. So in the exonic region, or we can say that that type of SNP is called what? What is a type of mutation is called? If we see yes, what is synonymous mutation?
Okay, it is not changing the amino acid. It is like this.
Yes. So in the case of synonymous mutation, that may not have a pronounced effect. So if it's a non-synonymous mutation, so non-synonymous substitution, if we take the case of non-synonymous substitution, it will alter the amino acid of a protein. So in this case, that might be more susceptibility to disease. And also SNPs are not only for the reason for disease causing, right? So even evolution, we can say, in a way has occurred due to genomic drift or genetic drift. Okay, so what is a genotype? So far we have seen that we have seen the concept of phenotypic resemblance in the case of choosing a reference genome. So let us deal with the genotype. What is a genotype? Yes. Yes, so if we go back to this manual here, SNP E. coli, here is what is GT here?
Genotype.
Genotype, right? So the metric in the metric in this VCF file, GT means genotype. So let's define it. So minimizing this. And yes, what is a genotype?
Genetic constitution of an individual organism. In the context of genomic variation, a genotype is defined a little more loosely. It typically refers to identifying more than one or all variation of sequence under investigation. Specifically, the word genotyping seems to be used very literally in publication and training materials. Most of the time, when reading this, it is not clear what the author means, what they state that they have genotype data. What they probably and usually mean is that they have established with some confidence.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
With some confidence, the base composition of their sequence, though it is often not clear how complete their information is.
So genotype is defined in also in a very ambiguous way. So it refers to all variations of the sequence under investigation. So first of all, the first thing is, when we do all variations of sequence under investigation, first of all, the sequence itself, as we saw above, is subject to selection bias, right? So we are not taking the sequence from all sections of the population. So first of all, the sequence itself is subject to selection bias, and within this selection bias, we are referring to all variations of the sequence under investigation. So the basic thing which determines a base in a particular genomic position as an accurate base or not is what is a basic thing. Suppose we saw, for example, in this VCF file, if you go to results, clear CD results, sorry, yes, so here we have this VCF file. So I'm doing head qualifier M35 SRR. It's the basic thing. What is this position? Yes, what is this genomic position?
Variant position.
Yeah, what is the position from
393.
393?
393.
And what is the reference base? So reference base is 2. Yes, so there's some disturbance. Please mute. Please mute. Please mute. There's some disturbance. Please mute. Showing how this works and you can do the same. Please mute. Okay. Please mute. Okay. Okay. So we saw that this is position 393, right? So this is position 393. So basic thing, how we can define the reference genome at position 393, and the alternate base is G. That is based on consensus of the sample basis. But T, how sure can we be of T? Yes, at this particular position, we depend on the base calling, right? We depend on the FRET score. Yes.
Yes.
First of all, we depend on the FRET score itself. The FRET score itself will tell us how sure we can be of T at this position, and only once we are sure of T at this position, then only we can talk about the alternate base, and that being whether variant with respect to T. Yes, so in the fundamental sense, genotype, for speaking of all variations of the sequence under investigation, the way we define all variations will first depend on the base calling of the reference genome, which is the reference base at the position. So potentially we know that there can be a completely variant sample with respect to a particular reference genome. Yes, but that will never happen if we are talking about finding out SNP calling for the same species, because if we are trying to, if we for example sequence and resequence various samples of the same species, there will not be much variation. Almost 90 to 99% of all the bases are going to be same. Yes. Okay. So what is haplotype? This is up to this paragraph, right? Okay. Yes. So we dealt about phenotypic resemblance. Phenotype, which talks about function, that will let us choose a reference genome from a reference database. And genotyping is nothing but sampling all the variations of a sequence under investigation. So what is haplotype? Yes. What is haplotype?
A haplotype is a group of genes in an organism that is inherited together from a single parent. In the context of genomic variation, a haplotype is a group of mutations that are inherited together. But just as with genotyping, the word haplotyping may be used in a broader and narrower sense. Sometimes it just means that genome can be grouped with other organisms of similar and known characteristics.
Yes. So haplotype has to do with some kind of inheritance, right? So for example, in the case of humans, generally we deal with three individuals, right? What are the three individuals we deal with? Yes. In the case of inheritance with humans, so is it like this? so 1 minute. It's a child and two parents genetics. Yes, so in the case of human pedigree chart, we restrict ourselves usually to 3 individuals, right? What are the 3 individuals? It's a simple question, right? What are the 3 individuals we restrict to while talking about human genetics? Hello, does anybody know this?
Parents and the person about whom
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
try to find
Yeah.
genetics.
Yeah, 2 parents and one progeny, right? Whichever specific progeny. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
2 parents and one progeny. So, what is that called? Or does anybody remember? It's this the 3 sample is called a special name in genetics, right?
No, I don't know.
Yes, okay. We'll check that once we get that. No problem. So basically, we understand haplotype like that. So basically, if we are going to study the genetic basis of a particular progeny, we are going to talk about its parents and the progeny. So haplotype is a group of mutations that are inherited together from a single parent. So and this is what we saw: phenotype, genotype, and haplotype. So phenotype is about function, genotype is about surveying all the variations of the sequence and investigation, and haplotype is a group of genes of an organism inherited together from a single parent. And representing sequence variations in SAM files, we already saw. I think mostly we took the same data set also. Okay, so we'll directly go to the steps how to mutate a sequence from the command line. So this is the MS bar tool which we discussed. This is for Emboss, European Molecular Biology Suite software suite. So how do I reconsider cigar and MD strings, and you observe what will deletions look like in SAM format, how will insertions look in SAM format, and how long is an alignment. This is how to get the alignment levels with the tool, how to visualize SAM as a pairwise alignment. Okay, so the SAM to pairwise tool is okay. That's then the next is oming. So we'll try to cover up to this section, page 9. So this is mostly the same Ebola data set which we already took. So let's take it again. We take this. So clear. So first we do this. So So efetch qualifier DB new core for nucleotide database, qualifier format fast qualifier ID is equal to the accession ID for Ebola, and then separate there is a space for everything. Okay. Sequence retrieve is separate. Sequence retrieve qualifier filter, qualified sequence ID, accession number AF08 A86833. These are being outputted to a variable $ref. Yes. Okay. So if you can't do this, so let's do it this way. T ref.fe. Yes, so this is, as we can see, the same Ebola genome, right? 1976 complete genome. So let us, for simplicity, name it in this way: AF08 6833, that one, up to that part, so that the sequence name will be clear for us. So we do nano ref.fa, and then we delete the further part. Control X Y. Okay, so it's head ref.fa. We get this. So we remember that this is a Ebola genome. That's fine. So we index this using BWA. So BWA index ref.fa. So this is done in 0.024 seconds. And how to mutate a sequence from the command line? The MS bar emboss tool, that is European Molecular Biology software suite tool, was designed to generate mutations in sequences. It can produce point mutations with the flag. So again, once more, if you want to install these two tools, so this is efetch, right? So this simple installation is here. Just go to Google and Bioconda space eDirect. So this is for intra-direct installation on Bioconda. This Conda install entry space direct. If you want to install BWA, Bioconda space BWA. This is for installing Burroughs Wheeler aligner, whole genome aligner on your Linux or Apple using Homebrew. So Conda install BWA, and then now let us see how to install Emboss. Bioconda space Emboss. So once you install Emboss, all the tools of Emboss will be automatically available. We need not install MSBar, DWGSim, all them separately. So like sequence retrieve all separately. So secret, sequence retrieve, SEQRET, and also MSBar, mutations simulation. All of these are part of Emboss. So it's Conda install Emboss. Yes, EMBOSS is European Molecular Biology open software suite. So we did this. We do Control U. So remember, Control U is to get back to the terminal if you have a command. So Control U. And if you have the same command, if you want to get to the start of a terminal, it's Control plus A. Control plus A, go to start. If you want to go, press End. If you want to go to End, press End, and then Control U. So now these are the MSBar point flags, the types of point mutations to perform, and block flags. Point mutations are for what? Can you check for what are the point mutations? Yes, we did the classifications, right? This is point mutations and this is block mutations. So if you come back to the top here, yes, if you come to the classification of variants, what are point mutations and what are block mutations?
Point mutations could be SNP, indel, indel as well, and SNV as well. Block mutation would be MNP and NLV.
Yeah, and also short variations and large scale variations.
Okay, short variations and large variations, larger scale variations.
So the first three are point mutations and last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are block mutations. So point mutations generally do not affect the length, but block mutations will affect the length. So let us see. So okay, we saw up here, right? Haplotype, genotype, haplotype, and then representing sequence variation samples we discussed in very much detail. So how to mutate a sequence from the command line. So point mutations are this, basically starting from 2: insertions, deletions, changes or substitutions, and duplications and moves. And any of the following if you want to use, it's 1, and if you want to use none of the following, it's 0. So the point mutations flags are from 0 to 6, and block mutations flags are again from also from 0 to 6, but this will be affecting the length in a big way. So this is MS bar tool. So block mutations are a series of consecutive mutations that span ranges within the minimum and maximum range. Okay, so let's get a 50 base pair query from the reference file. So we take this. So here we clear and ls, we have ref.fa index, and we take the first 50 base pair. So cat space ref.fe space sequence retrieve qualifier filter, verbose qualifier filter, verbose qualifier send 50 output redirection to query.fe. Yes. So ls, so we have query.fe. If you want to do head query.fe, yes, so this is 50 base pair, right? Yes.
Yes.
So if you want to check qualifier n2 ref.fa, so this is the sequence from here up to here, right? Yes, the first line. Yes.
Yes.
So from the first line of the fastest sequence we took the first 50 bases. So that's what we did, and introduce a point deletion. So in query.fa we introduce a point deletion at point 3. So point deletion means deletion point flag is what? What is a deletion flag? Point flag. Yes,
3.
3, right? So and we are going to introduce deletion point deletion flag. So for the query, so this first let us check whether we have ms bar. Let's get this. So we get the input sequence, right? So in this way we will get an interactive way where we can get the sequence, or we can do it directly on the command line. So let's do it interactive way for once. We'll check it. So query, this is a query. So let's take this sequence, we copy this and we copy this here. Okay, so mutate is, so we should in the same folder we'll give query.fa if you want. So query.fa, number of times to perform the mutation operations, so 1 time, right? Yes. So point mutation we'll give 3, right? So let's give 3. Yes. So type of block mutation, none. We are not doing any block mutation, right? Yes. So codon operations, codon mutation operations also we are not doing anything. So this is none. Yes. So output sequence is this. So let's press enter. So it's AF in small letters. So if we check for that, we can check this cat AF .fastly, and then we can also check cat query.fastly. Yes, so if you want to check more carefully, let us do this. Check it stat AF .fastly query.fastly. Yes, so is there any difference in the length?
One base.
Yes, one base, right? What is the one base that is deleted? You can see carefully towards right, towards the end of the sequence.
T.
Yeah, T is deleted.
Second.
Yes, T is deleted. So we do it MS bar in an interactive way. So let us do in a command line way. So if you want, we can move this AF this to interactive MSP.fa. So clear. Can again copy the command. So cat space ref.fa space sequence retrieve space qualifier filter space qualifier send 50 greater than, and then so with this we already did, we just took the sequence retrieve filter. So let us take the MS bar command. So cat query.fa instead of ref.fa, MS bar qualifier filter, verbose qualifier filter, qualifier 0.3, that's for deletion point mutation, and then mutated.fa. Yes, so let's check cat query.fa, and then also ms, that is what we did was let's do ls for once, the list of files, cat query.fa, then interactive way ms mutation, ms bar mutation, and then mutated.fa. Yes. So basically here in the case of third sequence, did we delete T or did we delete any other base? Yes, we can check for mutated.fa how it looks. So mutated.fa, yes, which base did we delete?
Yes, G.
Yes, it is G,
Fifth from last G. No, yeah, G. Yes.
PGC. So this is TCG, right? TCG. So we deleted G, right? Yes.
Yes.
We deleted G. So this is a random function. It randomly deletes bases in any position. So now visualize the output, global align.sh. So let us check if this script we have. So 1 minute. This script can be downloaded for global alignment. So basically global alignment is Needleman-Winch algorithm. So basically there we will need the entire length of the sequence to be aligned. So data dot so we will download the global alignment shell script. Okay, so by the time that is getting accessed, let us see further. Fundamentally, we will just see that whichever position there is a deletion in the lesser sequence, in the lesser length sequence, there will be a gap, right? The gap will adjust for the length. So we can also do a two-base block mutation. In the case of two-base block mutation, there are two gaps. So the number of gaps can be thought of as that many number of the difference between maximum and minimum. In the case of point mutation, we understand intuitively that maximum is 1 and minimum is 0, so 1 minus 0 is 1. In the case of block mutation, we can have any maximum and any minimum as far as the constraint is satisfied that minimum is greater than or equal to 2 and maximum is greater than or equal to minimum. Okay. Yes, so this is the constraints. We will illustrate that. First, let us download the global alignments shell script. Let us check. All of you are on the chat. Okay. Okay, so this is going to take some time. Okay, so fundamentally let us illustrate the concepts for block point mutation and block mutation. So the concept of point mutation, block mutation. Point mutation minimum is equal to 0 and maximum is equal to 1. Difference is equal to 1 minus 0 is equal to 1, right? And block mutation ms bar minimum is equal to 2, maximum is greater than or equal to minimum. Yes. So these are the two constants. This is understood. In the case of point mutation, minimum is 0, maximum is 1. The difference is 1. And in the case of block mutation, minimum is 2 and maximum is greater than minimum. And we can also say this, that gaps, number of gaps we can say it in two ways. Number of gaps, what will be the other criterion? What will be the difference? Number of gaps, or what is the other thing? Yes, am I audible?
Yes, number of gaps.
So number of gaps, or what is the other thing can be the difference? What is the other thing that can be the difference? Basically the Hamming distance, right?
Yes, okay.
Yes, Hamming distance, okay. Number of gaps or Hamming distance. So either the number of gaps in the case of insertions or deletions. In the case of SNPs or substitutions, Hamming distance will be the difference. Okay, so let us check this whether we got the global alignment. So this is not getting accessed. So okay, if that is the case, we can also do BLAST, no problem. So we'll do BLAST for pairwise alignment. BLAST is basically local alignment, right? But still it should work. So let's check. Okay, so we go here. Okay, so last for pairwise alignment. Okay. So this is the blast command. So let's take this. Blast and space qualifier query. So that's going to be mutated.fa, and qualifier subject. That's going to be query.fa. Right? Yes, so you can see here, right, there's a gap. Yes, yes, there's a gap, right? So where we actually had a deletion of G, there's a gap. So wherever there's a deletion of a particular base from the higher length sequence, there will be a corresponding gap in the lower length sequence. That's common, it's understood. Okay, so not this, so let's close this. So okay, and the same with the two base block mutation. Let's give minimum 2 and maximum 2. The same MS bar query moderation alteration from point to block mutation. So query is going to be same first part of the command. After pipe, this is going to change. MS bar qualifier filter block 3 minimum is 2, verbose qualifier maximum is also 2, and mutated .fa. Let's put it as mutated 2.fa. Block is 3, right? So let's put it as we want deleted 2.fa. Sorry, deleted 2.fa. So this is two deletions, so we can check it easily. So second stat deleted 2.fa and mutated.fa, query.fa. Yes, so it will be as expected, right? 48, 49, 50. Yes. Yes, we deleted two bases, right? So 48, 49, 50. So here also again, if we want to do pairwise alignment, so this is for a block 3, but block 3 mutation, minimum to maximum 2. There's also one more sub command apart from the block. You can also give count as well. That we'll see next. Count is for number of blocks or number of points. So here obviously default count is 1. Yes, default count is 1. So to check this, MS bar qualifier H. Yes, we can see all the options. is this a count integer, number of times to perform the mutation. Okay, there is a count. Default is 1. Whatever is in square bracket is default. So default count is 1. So clear. And same thing, blast. This is going to be deleted 2.fa. Subject query.fa. Yes, we have two gaps, right? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we have 2 gaps. Okay, so let's give count to that is 2 mutations, 2 block mutations. So this will be cat query.fa. ms bar verbose qualifier filter, verbose qualifier count to verbose qualifier block 3 for deletion, and verbose qualifier minimum to verbose qualifier maximum 2, and let's call this t deleted to 2.fa. okay, there's first two is for this one, how many we delete, that's a range, minimum maximum range, and second 2 is for count. Okay, if we give 3 count, let's call it 2 3. If we give 2 count, let's give 2 2. First one should have been called 2 1, but it's understood. Let's delete 2 1. This is delete 2 2. So we have this. Again, let's do second start out of it. First we are increasing as 46. Why is it 46?
Because there are total 4 deletions. 2 plus 3.
Counts of 2 deletions, right? 2 block deletions. One block is 2, another block is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. So 50 minus 4 is 46. And one count, 2 block, one block of 2 deletions. So for 50 minus 2 is 48. And then point mutation, which we did interactively, that is 1, and also point mutation which we did on command line, that is 1. So 49 49 150. So if you want to give blast again, blast and qualifier query delete to 2.fa. Yes. Okay, so maybe here we have to do global alignment in a way, so that's a limitation of blast, which is local alignment. So at least let's just try in another way, blast and short if you want. Okay, so control U, let's do ls. This is delete 22.fa, right? Delete 22.fa, yes. So blast and query delete 22.fa, subject query.fa. So okay, we will try to download the global alignment.sh, which is the exact one we should do, because blast is basically local alignment that obviously worked for us anyway till now. So we'll try to download this. Or let us check here. most probably we don't get it in one try. We'll proceed. So next aspect, as we can see, obviously the alignments will give us gaps corresponding to where the length of the sequence is less, so as to adjust for the greater length, and it will exactly give us gaps at that place where the deletions have occurred. Yes. So obviously the mutations the tool selects mutations randomly. Yes, this will select randomly. When choosing mutations like substitutions, it's possible to mutate the sequence back to it, that is replacing an A with another A. One flaw with the MS-bar tool is that it does not tell us what changes it has made, hence it's hard to use it in the context of validating the varying column. Yes. So we cannot say, we have to manually inspect, right? We have to manually inspect what has occurred. Yes. Yes, do you agree with this? We have to manually inspect. We have to manually inspect what has actually taken place due to MS-bar tool. How do I reconstruct alignment from CIGAR and MD strings? So basically CIGAR, compact idiosyncratic gapped alignment representation, and MD string, which stands for the edit distance. This will give us some information to transform the alignment to the original reference of the read alignment to the original reference. The encoding of the SAM file makes reconstructing the actual alignment a little more laborious than one might imagine. Let us walk through a simple example of mutating a 50 base pair sequence from Ebola genome, then reconstructing the information from its alignment back to reference. So in a nutshell, we will create the mutation, create this mutation, display this point mutation here. So dot represents a point substitution. Okay, gap hyphen represents gap. Dot here represents a point mutation. C is a reference if you want, and T is alternate base. Right? Yes, this is a dot. Yes, and pipe denotes exact match. Dot denotes mismatch. Gap denotes insertion or deletion. Fundamentally, insertion in one sequence is something like deletion in another sequence. Right? Simple. Yes. Let us.
Yes.
So dot denotes mismatch. So and this above will be represented in the CIGAR TM and the MD tag of 8C41. You can see the advantages of the shortened representations. Enter long stretch above a short word 8C41. The point 4 flag creates substitution in a random location of the sequence. In that case, we will rerun it. So basically, here, if you carefully see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? 8 bases. Yes. Before this mismatch has occurred. Yes. This is 8 bases before this mismatch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and after this 8 there's a C. Yes, and if we see more carefully, what is 4 changes, right?
Yes,
4 is changes, and 8C 4 is changes, and 1. So the point flag 4 creates a substitution in a random location of the sequence. In our case, the mutation will be somewhere else, and it's also possible that the mutation generates existing base. In that case, rerun it. So first we generate a random mutation. Let us do that. So MS-bar verbose qualifier filter. So here we copy this and cat query.fa MS-bar verbose qualifier filter point mutation 4, and then this is T. Let's call it CIGAR MD dot FA. Okay, so let us do again figure stats. So cigar MD.fa is nothing but 50. So substitutions will not change the length. Yes, substitution will not change the length. So once we go back, let us do the alignment. Blast in